Okay, a song. If we can plug it in. Yeah, there is only love. The middle one from a little prelude. Thanks, David. Do I need to turn it down before plugging in?
Yeah, maybe wait. It might pop.
Okay. We got you when you're winding down.
We already established this way for 5 minutes. We can turn out the mains. Plug it in.
Welcome. We're all in a deep pool of love here. All cuddled. Ooh. That's beautiful, beautiful. Oh, thank you for coming this morning. It's great to be here with you, sharing this moment. Hi, Craig. A lot of new faces. The weekend influx has come. It's beautiful, beautiful. Well, what was coming me today, this morning, to start off the talk with was this idea that the Holy Spirit only perceives two orders of thought. Everything is love or a call for love. And you can see how important that is. If you believe there are options, and you believe there's more than one option, then that's a good starting point. In fact, that's a saving grace to see everything as love or a call for love, because you will respond with love to love, and you will respond with love to a call for love. And it's only this belief that there's a third category, attack, which conjures up emotions of guilt and fear and anger, shame. And so you might say that this awakening is being convinced that attack is absolutely impossible, that it is no option at all. Because while you believe in it, while you have a filter in your mind for attack, then defenses arise and projections arise, not in reality but in awareness, just from this belief that attack is real. And of course you'd have to have two for attack. We were talking a lot about what is and the moment and everything being one, but attack actually requires an attacker and an attackee. So you can see it's a dualistic concept that is not helpful to your peace of mind in awareness. So really, this whole awakening is just being convinced that attack is impossible. We've been talking a little bit about sickness sometimes too, and there's a beautiful line in the Course that says, this is really your answer to sickness in any form. I am not a body, and my mind cannot attack, so I cannot be sick. It requires the belief in your identity be a body, and also the belief in attack before sickness, another illusion, could even arise in awareness. You have to meet the conditions of sickness to perceive sickness. And when you see that you're not a body and your mind could not and never has ever attacked, then you experience awakening, which is infinite, unlimited peace of mind. It's really very, very direct. So I've been sharing with some friends, and I'll share it with you. There's a part in A Course in Miracles that says the Holy Spirit sees only two orders of thought. Everything is love or a call for love. And then Jesus says, you cannot make this distinction because you are too bound to form and do not understand content. So this important distinction that is the function of the Holy Spirit, you cannot make this distinction. You as a person cannot make this distinction. You as a person was just a concept made to cover over this distinction. Because this distinction is the gateway back to eternal life. And this world was made as a cover, as a veil of eternal life. Duality is a cover over oneness. It's like wearing a shell, an artificial shell, and then losing track of the core, which is content. Love is content and not form of any kind. We've talked about that. Love has no object. As soon as you take your I amness, or even your I am love, or even your I am in love, and then you put with, there you go. Then the objectification starts. Then you try to shrink down something that's so vast and so eternal into something specific. It's pretty common in the world, we'll say, in the world's perception. So this sends your mind, if you really hear this, it sends your mind into a humbleness of, I do not know, show me. And that is a beautiful state of mind to be in, receptive, open, clear. I do not know, but I'm willing to be shown. Once you see that any type of attack is a cover over of the love that you are. And ultimately, you go into the finer points of attack. You start to realize as you go much deeper that preferences are attack thoughts. Preferences are attack thoughts. That's a very subtle point. And if you leave out the S on the end, preference is an attack. Not reality, but it is a cover. Because underneath it there's an assumption that you can make yourself any way that you wish to be, instead of accepting yourself as God created you, pure spirit. Preference is the wish that things be different than they are. That's what preference is. Just a wish for things to be different than they are. If everything is one, everything is unified, and the timeline itself is a preference to be something different than the one. So Lisa was talking the other day about imagination. Does anybody remember who sang that song? It was just my imagination running away with me. Was that the Temptations? Isn't that an interesting name? The Temptations sang, it was just my imagination running away with me. Oh, Spirit has been speaking us, and back in the 60s and the 70s, all these songs have been singing to us, offering us release. If we could just have the ears to hear the Temptations and just my imagination. That's what I heard Lisa's talk the other day. It was all about imagination. Anything that seems to be a hang-up, a problem, stuckness, anything that you experience that's not perfectly happy and harmonious and joyful and loving is a temptation to run away with a little mini-me, as mini-me. Austin Powers. And really you don't want to run away with mini-me, because it is just imagination. What we're saying is that imagination has no reality. In the East it's called Maya. Course in Miracles calls it illusion. Who you are is a reality. It's not an illusion at all, but when you identify with images on the timeline, then that's what happens. So we've been talking about letting go of all concepts. Actually, reality doesn't know what a concept is. So in the end, it's really what Buddha said, what Jesus said about empty the mind of every concept. Everything you think you know, hold on to nothing. Just pure emptiness. No thing. That was Lisa's word for God, no thing. I've always liked that. I like that pronunciation better than nothing, which sound like, what's this world about? Nothing. No thing. Or everything. All inclusive, that's beautiful. So I want to give you a concept that is a helpful concept, because a lot of times when I hear people around the world, they'll say, they'll kind of nod and they'll say, sentimentally, I'm with you. Sentimentally. Practically, I don't have a clue what you're talking about. But what I want to give is a practical concept, and it's a concept that allows the escape from all concepts. In other words, if this is a world of concepts and it's a world of illusions, if there is one illusion that leads you out of the rest, then take it. If there is one concept that will free your mind of all concepts, that's a pretty good deal. If there's one thread that if you pull on it will unravel the whole tapestry. You know how that is with your clothes, a sweater. It's fine, there are a bunch of threads, and there's this one thing sticking out. And instead of just getting scissors and cutting it off, you go, no harm, I'll just pull on the thread, and you start to pull on the thread, and then you notice this unraveling thing start to happen, and you go, ooh, and you pull, and you pull, and then you've got a hole. And if you pull enough on it, the whole sweater's gone. It's just a pile of threads, you have no sweater. And that's how we can do this awakening thing. You just have to find the one concept in your mind that will unravel the rest. To say the words, I need do nothing, a lot of times people say, sentimentally, that sounds really good. Because there's a sense of relief. There's a sense of relaxation. I need do nothing sounds really good, sentimentally. And yet, people will say practically, I've got job issues, bill issues, environmental issues, I got car problems, got relationship problems. What they're dealing with is the contents of consciousness. Not that any of them are real. In fact, I would say they're all equally unreal. But as long as you believe in them, then emotionally you're experiencing ups and downs, highs and lows, goods and bads. So let's take a ride on a plane. We're going to use the runway as an example of the spiritual journey, because the journey is really not linear, and it's really not a process, but while you believe in time, you will experience it as a process. You can't help but experience it as a process while you believe in linear time. You could say mantras, you can click your heels together, you can twinkle your nose, you can do whatever you want, but while you believe in linear time, while you believe there's cause and effect that are apart, instead of together, instead of simultaneous, you will believe in a process. So I'm going to use the runway of an airport as a metaphor for that process. Now, I would say that, just as an example, at some point in your life, maybe it dawned on you in a kind of a conscious way, like, oh, there's something that I'm here on planet Earth for, or there's some purpose that I have for my life. And you could call that whatever you want. You could say, I'm on a journey of happiness, or healing, or forgiveness, or awakening. You could call it any name you want, or no name. It doesn't really matter. And I would say that is kind of like getting out of, pushing off from the gate. Once you go, there's a higher purpose for my life, other than surviving and existing and then dying. There's a higher purpose. That's kind of pushing off from the gate. And then once you get taxi, you get to the runway. The point of going down the runway, the point of firing those engines, the point of letting that airplane go faster and faster and faster and faster and accelerating is for liftoff. And any of you who've been in a plane know the feel. You can feel on your seat the wheel and the rumble when you still are earthbound. And then there's a moment when there's no rumble, other than the rumble of the engines of the plane and the bringing of the the wheels back. You know, we all know those sounds when the click click when the wheels come under. But when you have that moment, you know that moment when there's a liftoff, and that liftoff is this moment, this very moment. That's the liftoff. And so a lot of times I talk a lot about the liftoff. I know Lisa talks a lot about the liftoff. We're talking about that moment of freedom where you are not bound. You aren't touching, the plane isn't touching anything. It's like it's in air. It's gone from solid concrete to air. It's not touching anything other than obviously molecules and so on and so forth in Newtonian physics. But for this metaphor, we're going to look at that. And I would say that what is it that really helps you accelerate down the runway? Because a lot of times, that's the how question. There's an awareness, I need to lift off in awareness, and I need to accelerate my mind training or be open to an experience where I'm totally free. And I would say in the liftoff, it's but there's no analyzing of the runway, there's no analyzing of what you did to get to the gate or how you pushed off the gate. And when you are airborne, you quickly even forget the runway in the airport. You're not paying attention to anything that came before because it's just as if it's gone. When you take off, it's almost, it's as if you see no airport, there is nothing there. You don't have any awareness of that, you are free. Now there's one concept I'm going to talk about, some teachers talk about it and some don't, but I would say it's, in terms of practicality, it's important, it's guidance. It's guidance. Guidance is not a reality. In Nirvana and the Kingdom of Heaven, there is no such thing as guidance. It's not like the angels all get together and go, what did Jay say? What did Buddha say? Well, Jay said do this, no Buddha. There's no doings, there's no bodies, there's no actions, there's no time. It's just eternity. There's no guidance in eternity. Because why? Because there's no need for guidance in eternity. Where all is one, everything is pure beingness. However, if you have identified with duality and dualistic thinking and opposites which do not exist, then guidance is the one concept that is helpful. It's that little nudge in your heart. It's that little feeling that you have. It's the little thing, sometimes we call it a prompt. It could be a word, it could be wordless, it could just be a feeling. It could be a little calling. It can take many, many different forms. But the one thing I want to emphasize with it is there's a quality, there's a characteristic about this guidance that is very helpful to know. And that guidance never commands and never demands. It's important. Because as you go on the spiritual journey, there can be some temptations to fall into some commanding and some demanding. And some of us have been through those experiences, seemingly, where you have to. Never commands, never demands. There's a movie that I like called Mr. Destiny, and Michael Caine plays the spirit character in that. Plays a bartender, a wise bartender, and at one point the Larry character, Jim Belushi, is kind of blown away in his interaction with this being, this angelic being, and he doesn't understand how it works, and the Michael Caine character says, I make the suggestions, you make the decisions. Never commands, never demands. Imagine having a stream of consciousness. Among all these seeming thoughts of consciousness, there's a beautiful, clear stream of suggestions from your true self, from your real self, from, call it the higher self, the Christ self. It's a stream, beautiful, bright stream of suggestions that are always available, never absent, always available, until there's no need for that stream anymore. It's there. It's real. It's real in your awareness. It's the most real thing because it will take you beyond duality, beyond differences. All you have to do is tune into that stream. When you have learned how to decide with God, all decisions become as easy and as right as breathing. And it will be as if you are carried down a quiet pathway in the summer. It's soft. It's gentle. It always speaks for the real you. And it will shine through your imagination. Whatever your imagination is, it will shine through those symbols. It will reach your mind right wherever you believe you are, and whatever you believe you are. You could believe you're a snake or a polar bear. It will shine through whatever beliefs you hold. It's shining. That's what Lisa was talking about when she was saying it's all good. It's not about trying to deny anything, and it's not about trying to break the world up into parts or camps. It's all good because this light is streaming through consciousness, and it's all pervasive, and it's always there with you. The goodness, we'll say, the not good in the sense of good and bad or an opposite, but just in the sense of this freedom of seeing that you're none of the world, or all of the world, whichever way you want to look at it. It's very, very practical. So when people ask me about how I live my life, how do you decide where to go, how do you decide which invitations to accept, do you reject invitations, how do you decide where to go, all these different things, it comes down to this simple stream and being in alignment with this stream. Because that is a practicality of being in the moment. You don't get swayed by any forces. You don't believe in appearances, but those appearances can be used by this stream. We might say it's just the stream is coming through all the appearances, and you feel peaceful because of that stream. So that was my opening today. That's just what was on my mind. Talk about the stream. And also I feel like that's the real value of being here. What I've been talking about and what Lisa has been talking about is just this experience of you can only have a question, you can only have an issue, you can only have a problem in imagination, not in reality. And when you perceive this, what else is that but a call for love? A call to love. A call to experience yourself as love. The love that you have always been, that always will be. There was a beautiful mystic who traveled all over the United States and Canada and even did some more travel when she was flown, I believe, up to Alaska. But her name was Peace Pilgrim, and she was asked one time when she was speaking to a group of people, what do you do when you have a challenge or an issue or a problem that arises up in your awareness? And she said, oh, that's just an opportunity, that just knocks me back on track. That's how she described the problem. Just knocked her back on the track. Knocked her back into the stream. Knocked her back into alignment. Isn't that a wonderful, optimistic view of a problem? Knocking you back into alignment. Not an actual problem at all. Actually assisting you in that sense. From that perspective, you always are assisted by everything. You always are realigned. Like a spiritual chiropractor for your mind, your consciousness. I've got an issue. Oh, okay, I'm back. How wonderful that is, how practical that is. And as we look around, whatever we perceive as our environment, if you are in line in that flow, in that stream, then you feel just gratitude, overwhelming love and appreciation for everything and everyone that you perceive because of that alignment. It's a tweak. It's an inner tweak in consciousness. It's not about changing anything in form. Isn't that lovely? How relaxing to not have to adjust. Spend your day adjusting, and then finally rest at night. You can actually learn to let go of the adjustment and just be fully here now. How relaxing that is. So, I'm joining you in the stream today, and we will have that be the prayer of our heart, that I'll just open it up to any questions, comments, inquiries, seeming issues, difficulties, whatever, miracles, whatever you want to share. And we'll join in that prayer of the heart. Peace. We've got our roving Mike and Joe.
I'm just going to be Donahue.
Okay, very Donahue. He's taking the Donahue role today.
Let's go to the caller.
That's good. Does everyone know who Phil Donahue? Jerry Springer? Oprah Winfrey?
I just wanted to share something that I noticed while we were sitting here before the session started. And what came to my mind was there were sensations in my body, and I may attach the word pain. And then what happened was I realized that it was a sensation, and if I didn't have a story, which wasn't attached to a me or an I, then it wasn't pain. And it just was, and then I just kept watching it without the story of anything, and then I completely forgot about it. So I just wanted to share that. It's really cool, and it was a reminder that there is no pain. If there's pain, there's no God, and if there is a God, there is no pain. So if there's no me, there is God, and that's what's here.
Yeah, it's beautiful. Because everything is about identity. Everything is. So there's nothing minor or major. There's no thought or feeling or perception that's insignificant. Everything is that opportunity to see that there's no personal self, there's no separate individual, and there's only the one. And how quickly you can see just in your mind, just in that shift in consciousness and awareness, that you lost, where you didn't have that experience of pain. It's interesting, I'll comment a bit on the story too, because sometimes in non-dual terms it's like stories are bad. The moment's good, stories are bad. If you have a story, that's imagination. If you don't have a story, reality. But what's so great about this stream that I'm talking about, called guidance, is that nothing in form is good or bad. It's the purpose that's underneath that's everything. So we have teachers like Jesus who basically, when he got into public, when he was in his boat or he was on the mount and he was speaking, much of his teaching was actually done in parables. And parables are stories. You might have heard of the prodigal son. I heard Jason was Lion Kinging it last night with the prodigal son. He was mixing some cartoons and some teachings of old together, and it's always the purpose. When you're in the field, so to speak, the Rumi called it, when you're in the stream, when you're in the quantum field, then everything is involuntary, and whatever comes even out of your mouth, even if it's a story, it's coming from grace, it's coming from spirit. It's the purpose. The temptation is to divide the world into different forms. This food is better than that food. Vegetarianism is better than meat eating. This energy is better than that energy. No story is better than story. But when you're still, when you're in stillness, absolute stillness, everything that you seem to do or not do is all part of what's given in the stream. So it's all in the alignment. That's where the peace comes. That alignment, there is no pain. There never was any pain in that alignment. Never any discomfort in that alignment. Never any discord. No conflict. Never was. And that's why alignment and guidance, as I call it, is so important. Even when you go into a Christian Science church, amazing. Christian Science was founded by Mary Baker Eddy, and she's quite famous for a number of things, but I always just was like, when I would hear there's no mind in matter, there's no life, truth, substance, or intelligence in matter. Oh, gosh, my heart soars when I hear that. And that's also why the reason we could say that there are really no mistakes in form. That's just a conditioning to believe you did the right thing or the wrong thing. But it's all about alignment. In alignment, all things work together for good. In alignment, you can see the truth has no exceptions. In alignment, you are aware that nothing is out of place, never was out of place. How lovely. Because you can see that you need not look back at your life in this world, so to speak, or look forward. All past guilt and regrets is simply a decision to be out of alignment. And all future worries and concerns, anxiety about the future, is just a choice to be out of alignment. And in the ultimate sense, what Lisa and I talk about, when you transcend the idea, the concept of choice entirely, that is just an acceptance of what is. An acceptance of what is. Not really a decision at all, since it's the only one available. And that, you are worthy of that. You are so worthy of that. That's the point. When someone says, "What's the point?" That's the point. Thank you. It's going to come right there, Anna, through there. Duck.
All right. I certainly understand the concept that Rebecca was talking about pain simply being a sensation. I've had a lot of sensation in this body, and here's the point that I've gotten to is when I think it's a problem, that's when the pain really begins. When I just see it that's what it is and flow with that, and just accept. That's when the joy and the happiness and the gift of it all comes together. I joined with Desi yesterday and kind of resolved a lot of my, and thank you, she's just absolutely a delight, so thank you. But I tend to have these reoccurring arguments in my head about, with people and things that happen, even with people that aren't even here anymore. And I forgive them, and I release, and it comes up over and over. Is there, that reoccurring resentment kind of thing? How would I finally let go of that so that they don't keep coming back? It seems I've heard you talk about this before, but I forget what the answer is.
Okay, we'll talk about that. Well, just like when there's a sensation or you're aware that there's some kind of judgment or conclusion being drawn about that sensation, that's when it really starts to magnify. The pain seems to increase with that focus. I would say that the more you understand how consciousness works, you start to realize that that discomfort and upset, including anger and grievances and resentment, always come from an interpretation and not from a fact. So back in the early 1990s, I had a group of students, and they were talking to me one day, and I said, well, no one can be angry at a fact. And they said, what does that mean? Of course we're angry at the facts all day. And I said, no, you can never be angry at a fact. And they kept pressing me, well, finally, give me an example of a fact, if no one can be angry at a fact. I said, well, God is a fact. And Christ is a fact. And no one can be angry at a fact. It's always interpretations that give rise to upsetting emotions. It's always a judgment that precedes it. And then the mind kind of spews out. It can be like characters that have long since passed away, or ones that you're dealing with on a daily basis, or ones that you see every once in a while. Or it could be about a circumstance or a situation. It's like a spewing of reasons for the anger. And another great line from Jesus, these are like really talk about earth-shaking, transcending ideas. Anger is never justified. That's a beautiful one. That was one that I really had to just take in and let it marinate for a while. It fits with no one can be angry at a fact, because it's always an interpretation that gives rise to the upset, to the anger or the grievance, and then there's always another option available. But when the mind tries to justify a state of mind like anger, it will just search and search and search, and it will pull together a whole case of scenarios and stories and interpretations to build an airtight case. It's not God-tight, but it's airtight. It seems pretty airtight sometimes, because you think, this is not moving. I've been praying and meditating on this for months or years, and it's airtight. It's not God-tight, but it's there. And the thing about it is, you just have to really come to an honesty about the attempt to justify. So that's where those lessons, workbook lessons of the Course came in for me. I mean, everybody's got the ones that they're drawn most to. I would come back to 5, 6, 7, 8. I'm never upset for a reason I think. I'm upset because I see something that's not there. I see only the past. My mind is preoccupied with past thoughts. It quickly zoomed me in away from all these characters, and all these scenarios and stories to, whoa, I'm preoccupied with the past. And then you need something light. But it was just my imagination running away with me. The imagination is the past. It's still playing with the past, not understanding that the past is over and gone. It's gone. It really is gone. But the mind that is sleeping and dreaming and playing with imagination, it so much wants the past to still be present. It so much wants to keep the past activated. It's just playing with the fabric of the past and just keeps pulling threads, pulling them forward again, pulling them forward instead of just letting go and accepting that they're gone, that the healing has already occurred. It's just trying to pull. And you really need to really see that to finally be free of it. As long as it seems like it's about all the little train tracks and the trains running through there, the trains of interpretation, there really is no escape from the trains while you're riding them. And I've often said, how do you stop a runaway train that's roaring down a mountain? You don't. You have to go deeper, much deeper than the runaway train, to actually see the impossibility of the runaway train. That's the escape, not to try to stop it. You know how they say, what you resist persists? Whenever you get into that mode of justifying, and you even try to put the brakes on, I'm going to put the brakes on the ego. I'm going to bring the ego to a screeching halt. Even that effort is presuming that the ego has to be halted, when actually it's not there. That's what enlightenment is the experience of really what is, and there is no ego in what is. Byron Katie says, loving what is. There's no ego in loving what is. It's been said in many ways, in many forms, but that's it. So it's just an openness to be shown. That's what we said earlier. To be in a state of mind of I do not know, but I'm willing to be shown. That is everything. You can feel it. There's a presence behind these words. You can feel it. It's there, it's real, it's calling. Thank you, David. He's giving his best Donahue moves. You see that one? Like the Globetrotters, around the waist.
Thanks, David. As you're talking, part of my mind, my ego mind, is saying, "Oh no, this can't be real. This isn't right." But then the other part of my mind says, "Oh yes, it is." And when I think of my own problems in my own mind, I gladly accept what you're saying, and I know that I do this. But what you're suggesting. The problem that my ego keeps coming back to is, well, what about seeing a person who is apparently outside of myself, who is in pain, physical pain, emotional pain, somebody who's just lost a child, somebody who's been in an accident, a war refugee. How do I align myself with this guidance to be of service to this apparently external being?
Yes. Well, what we've been talking about is that anything that seems to be external is really not external at all. It seems to be external to the David personality, but it's not really external at all. That this is really a world of ideas, and everything that we are perceiving is all mind. It's only the idea that there's an identification with a personality self that makes it seem like there's something external, like a subject and an object, an observer and observed. And even a person among persons is part of the trick of the world to make it seem like there could be something that is not part of you personally, but that exists in a different way, like pain outside. So this is a turning of your mind around where, for me, that helped when I was in the workbook, and Jesus comes right out and says, pain is a false perception. I like that. Give it to me straight. It doesn't matter if the pain seems to be experienced in a body or in a perceived body, or even in watching a scene on the nightly news, or a scene from Syria, or Ukraine, or something, St. Louis, Missouri. I mean, it doesn't matter when you perceive something and you have that thought like, oh, that one is suffering. You have to believe it to perceive it. I always would tell my students over and over, if you spot it, you got it. I would try to make it as simple as I could. If you spot it, you got it. If you perceive it, you believe it. That's how it works. That's what, when Melissa has been saying, when you're joyful, the whole world is joyful. When you're sad, the whole world is sad. It's dissolving away this, first step is dissolve away this idea of something that's external to consciousness. Even in science, we had all these we had Newtonian science, Newtonian physics, but once we got into quantum science and physics, that's what quantum physics is about, because I know you read this stuff, and that's how, these are reflections that you're getting back to your mind that are trying to encourage you to see in a whole different way. That quantum physics is saying there's no perceiver and perceived. There's no world apart from the experimenter. You can't separate the experiment from the experimenter. It's the same teaching. It's the perennial wisdom. And what's so important about that is slowly you start to wash away this idea of objectivity, that there's some kind of objective way of looking at the world, in the sense that there's everything that you see initially is subjective. And when I say everything is subjective, that's referring to what Lisa was talking about if I'm sad, the whole world is sad. If I'm happy, joyful, the whole world is happy, joyful. That's first seeing it's all subjective. And then the truth comes, because the truth is not subjective. The truth transcends relativity, subjectivity, variable perceptions. The truth is true and only the truth is true. The truth is an experience beyond words, beyond time, beyond space. That is, you can't experience that without first seeing the power of the mind, the power within consciousness, the power of wanting, the power of believing. You need to acknowledge that first before you let it go. It's a trick to think that you're tiny and small and weak. It's a trick that there could be a vast world outside of you that has no relation to you. And now quantum physics is actually demonstrating that with the quantum field I talk about a lot. That's a perfect scientific demonstration of forgiveness. Not the world's kind of forgiveness, but of this unified awareness. So I think the most thing you can do is, like in the East they call it neti, is just pay attention and be aware where you notice there's still an exception being made. Whenever you find yourself drifting off into imagination and thinking there's pain over there, I'm sure of it, and it might even say, and thank God it's not me, but don't thank God it's not you, because it still is part of awareness. Ideas leave not their source, and thoughts don't really go out into the world. That's why I will never be popular in this world, because I teach that there is no manifesting. You can't ever manifest anything. And even when I've had students come and tell me they've manifested this in their life now and manifested this and this and this, and I tell them it's really all you. It's not, you can't break it up into specific little parts, because it's, that's just another trick as well. Anna. By the way, Anna and her partner Cassie will be dancing tonight. Hi Cassie, nice to meet you. Actually this afternoon, I think. It's 3 o'clock from what I heard somewhere.
Thank you for telling me.
There you go. See, the stream takes care of everything.
Thank you. Some things have been happening to me since I started the course about a year ago. And I come from a family where there's a lot of fighting, and so I took it upon myself as a child to be the peacemaker. And so I've kind of continued that role my whole life, trying to keep the peace. And when I started the course a year ago, all these miracles started happening, and it was just so beautiful. And I'm like feeling it. I'm getting these, oh, wow, just these big moments of ahas and just being in the moment in love and peace. And then, about in the last, I would say, 3 months, all of a sudden, I'm blowing up at other people. I'm like, oh, how could they do that to me? That's wrong, and how could they? And it was all my imagination and misconceptions and the train running away with me. And so I'm just like going, okay, it's not them, me, so why am I all of a sudden with all these big aha moments and all these beautiful, loving miracles happening? It's almost like, am I cleaning out the last of my karma? Or I don't know what's going on, why I'm all of a sudden with some of my dearest friends. It's like, okay, and then I realized after I blow up that it was all my imagination. So I just would like some help getting through this hurdle so I can just get back to the peace that I started with.
Okay. Well, I would say what you are experiencing is quite common, and that is that as you start to experience more and more miracles, and your life becomes more and more miraculous, your awareness becomes more miraculous, that what's actually happening is you're loosening from the attachment and identification with roles. And there was a peacemaker role there. So that was a role that was played in the family system. Not really you, just a symbol of your desire for peace. Just a symbol. Like anything is just a symbol, that's just a symbol. And then as you experience miracles, in one sense, it's drawing you inward, right inside into the core of your actual being. And as that seems to happen, defenses start to be laid down, and projections start to be laid aside in a very natural way, because you're starting to see that you can't really do that you can't really project, that you can't really be the fixer or the peacemaker or the blamer. But there's still a vacillation going on between the stream, the connection to source, and the other part. And that's why it can be shocking, even surprising. Not conscious, you know, it happens so quick, and it comes so quick that it doesn't seem to be a decision that you're making. It just seems to be something that's just happening. Quite startling, quite shocking. But this is what happens when you start to metaphorically reel in the projections, take the cause away from the world. You start to bring it back into consciousness, into awareness, to see that causation is in the mind. As it starts to come in, it gets very, very intense, because there's no escape mechanisms. There's no pawning it off. There's no pointing the finger, and you start to lose blame objects as you go in. And yet your consciousness is going, I want to blame her. I'm going to explode. It's almost like reeling it in. Closer, closer, closer. And it actually, that intensity will disappear as you come right into the core. It's just that lingering sliver of a belief in an external that is being dissolved. Some of you might have seen the movie Lucy with Scarlett Johansson. We're actually going to show that if you hang around in our movie fest. We're going to show Lucy. But as Lucy starts to use more and more of the percentage of her brain, and she gets higher up, 50, 60, 70, she does realize, she even says the words, some of my cells are going to reject the nucleus being, split or dissolved. This separation idea, some of my cells are still going to reject, but she's determined to go all the way to full consciousness, to full awareness, and into blazing light. That's literally the I am presence prior to persons and places and things, just the I amness. So this is actually a very common thing, and all I can say is, for you, is allow it. Just give yourself permission and allowance. And when there's a temptation to judge it, or condemn it, or figure it out, or even conclude anything, don't bite the bait. Don't go for that. Go back to allowance, because allowance will take you to acceptance. Yes. Thank you.
Just really feeling like I'm in the current now. It's not a question. I just want to be grateful to everybody, for everything. That's all. Just thanks.
I'm back. Oh, Doug left. But anyway, what Doug was saying about old tapes, resentments. I've been practicing for about a year now, just going back to silence, no matter what it is. Like not buying whatever it comes up with, just being back here. So some of what you were saying made me think, and some of these people have been describing clarity or expression sessions. And what my question is, mostly, unless it's like I need groceries or gas or I'm going to go for a hike, most of my thoughts are baloney. You know, they're just ego dancing with ego. So I just like let go of them. I don't go into them and see if there's a nugget of anything there, because mostly it's just baloney. So some of what I heard you say to Doug was to look at that, and maybe I just heard it wrong, but I just wanted some clarification on that.
Yeah, there's no sense in looking for darkness or trying to dig up darkness or dig out darkness. It's just as you experience daily life, things will come up, or you'll just, even if you're meditating, you'll sometimes notice thoughts that are like, seem to be like trigger points or things. And yeah, the beauty of this is that in the end it's not an awakening of percentages or most or few or whatever. It's like, if the truth is true and only the truth is true, and if it's an unequivocal shift, then you're going to open up to releasing it. If we use the baloney word of going to, I see the false is false, 100% baloney.
Right, so back to now.
Back to now, and that's really the stillness. That is that point when you can open up into that. It's just also, I've noticed that the Holy Spirit will take defense mechanisms and turn them around so radically that you can see that they have no value. For example, repression and denial is a very often used egoic defense mechanism against the truth. And so with repression, a lot of thoughts are pushed out of awareness, beliefs are pushed out of awareness, and sometimes on the surface of consciousness the mind will try to sit and meditate, or will have its practices on the surface, but this is such a devastating, not in truth, but to awareness. Denial and repression are they're just major, it's a major defense mechanism. So Helen Schuckman, the scribe of the Course, woke up one day and she saw this kind of blazing light, these flames, and basically the message in the flame was, never underestimate the power of denial. It was that much brought into her awareness. And so what seems to be like expression sessions or talking to a close friend, where there's a sense of safety and trust and non-judgment, it's just another expression of not trying to hide and protect thoughts, because many thoughts, all the thoughts that even make this world are pushed out of awareness. It's not in conscious awareness. No one walks around consistently saying, I made that up, and I made that up, and I made it. The grocery store, the cashier, I made you up. And the change, I made that up. I made the milk up. It's not in conscious awareness. Just like nobody goes to a movie theater and just sits there, pays whatever, $10, and just sits there. It's just a dream. It's just a dream. Not real, not real, not real. Consciously through a movie. They're seemingly caught up. They're taken away, so to speak, in awareness into the movie. They would say they're in the movie. They can almost feel like they're there in the scenes and everything. And this awakening is really reversing projection, reversing denial. Taking the miracle undoes defenses. So it's highly individualized in that sense. It's not like there's a formula that works, but and again, miracles are very involuntary. So whatever seems to come for one may resonate with one and may not so much with another. But that's because the Spirit is just coming through in a way that will bring some help, bring some practical help. Yeah. And we had down front.
So, David, my question is about preferences. And I understand it could be food, it could be relationships. Actually, those are the 2 points, food and relationships. And The first one is I come here and I eat the food that is provided. But when I go back, I live my own life, my own schedule, and I have my preferences for food. And so that's one point. And then for relationships, I come here and everybody's so loving and we hug each other. But I have a preference that I would like a relationship with someone that is like a preference to one person. So then I'm reconciling that thoughts. And so am I dropping my preferences? I mean, I wouldn't know what to eat. Like, if I go grocery shopping, what do I buy? Like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm vegetarian, but now I eat meat. I say, okay, what's provided, I'll eat it. But then when I go home and I have a family, what do I cook? Or when I go back and I think, okay, well, should I continue a special relationship with someone that I particularly like?
Okay, we'll go right at that. That's very good. You're asking it for everyone. Everyone's like, yeah, that's a good one. Well, you know how I said at the beginning, like with this stream of alignment, that it shines through everything. It shines through consciousness. It shines through the preference system even. It's almost like a light where you've kind of put some shadows and some veils over it, like a lampshade. And the light still shines through the lampshade. You know, you put a cover or a sheet over it, the light shines through. Nothing can block out the light. The light shines through. So let's just talk about it in terms of a preference system. Because that's what the ego is. It's just judgments, and preferences are judgments of one thing over another, whether it's food or a partner or whatever. The light shines through that and reaches you, and that's what I call guidance, in the sense that the book that came out recently that was from a website I did called Teacher of Teachers. The book's called Unwind Your Mind Back to God. And it's almost like the light shining through all of these preferences, reaching you in awareness and coming through in a way of practical guidance. And that's what I was dialoguing with the students back in the 1990s. We would go very into all these kind of things. Those are the things come up. It wouldn't only be, yeah, it wouldn't only be like people's preferences, but maybe we'd be in a household with children and having a little community going, and then the kids would go off to school and come home and say, who ate my ice cream? And who ate my candy bar? You know, where they're practicing sharing the symbols, and it was that, you know, those kind of things come up. So when we talk about sensations, and we talk about sensations of the body, it's hard to see, but, you know, I'll go with you into this a little bit, but the body doesn't have any sensations at all. Everything that's experienced, that seems to be experienced in the body, is just a projection of mind. So this mind is so powerful, and this ego is so ingenious, that it has projected feelings and sensations to an image that actually doesn't feel at all. And this is how deep A Course in Miracles goes. The body does not feel at all. The Holy Spirit doesn't even see the body the way the ego does. You know, it's the entire perception of the world through the Spirit. The filter, we'll say, of the Spirit is completely different. There's even workbook lessons that say, it's talking about letting go of judgments and planning and all the typical things of the human mind. And it says, if you can tell you have practiced well by this. This is Jesus Christ talking. You can tell you have practiced well by this. The body should not feel at all. Whoa. That's deep. Why should the body not feel at all? Is because spirit doesn't have sensations. Your reality is only spirit. You can see where this is going. In mysticism, some people say, well, that's moving into asceticism. You know, where people try to starve the body, or sometimes they even punish the body. And the early I would say, like, if you go back to Christianity, the ones that were even closest back there in time to Jesus, there was a group called the Gnostics, and the Gnostics got that the world wasn't real. I mean, that was part of their actually theology. That's pretty deep for the first century. You know, that's pretty deep, that the world's not real. Eastern teachings, long before that, were teaching about Maya and illusion, the Vedas, and in India and China. But even with that, the Gnostics thought, well, if it's not real, then it doesn't matter what you do. So they would try to indulge in pleasure and pain and justify it by saying it's not real anyway, so it shouldn't really matter. But they weren't happy in their pleasure-pain thing. This is why if you go deeper and deeper into this experience of absolute non-judgment, following the guidance, following the stream, appetites fall away, feelings fall away. We even have people now that will walk on hot coals, you know, as a demonstration, and not, their feet don't get burned. That's kind of a Mary Bakeretti demonstration of no mind and matter. That's coming fully into the awareness of mind is whole within itself, and it does not go out. So what you have to do is be very, very practical, as honest as you can with yourself, and you notice the preferences. So they're there. You know, the Spirit, Holy Spirit works with the preferences. The Holy Spirit can use anything that the ego made to unwind the mind back to God. And that's why you'll find in the book and in the teachings, all online and everything, is there's a dialogue that goes on that's all about this unwinding. Not involving sacrifice, which the ego feels it's the sacrifice to give up the good things in life. But if you read the Course, when you get to the manual, what is the real meaning of sacrifice, he will say something like, God's teachers can have no regret on giving up the pleasures of the world. That's pretty direct. Why can they have no regret? Because they're going into divine union. They're going into joy. They're starting to see the difference. Like Elisa had her song about joy and pain. And when the mind's asleep, it doesn't understand the difference between joy and pain. That's a deep sleep. Talk about inception, you know, being asleep. When you don't understand the difference between joy and pain, then you need help. You need guidance. You need to be unwound from a belief system that is very, very distorted, and is so practical. So that's where guidance comes in, and I think many of us could say we've gone through different eating styles. You know, when people hear you talk, oh, great, she's representing what I've gone through. Different eating styles, desiring different partners, different kind of environments, saying, gee, I would like to have a happy environment, like, this is a kind of nice environment, and then the mind jumps to, wow, I could live in this kind of environment, or live in an environment where there's freely given hugs. You know, you turn left, you turn right, you turn around, it's hug, hug, hug. You know, these are just symbols, and it's just the Spirit using the preferences, using the beliefs in a way that is taking you and unwinding you from this egoic belief system. So it's very, very practical. There's no rush to it, there's no push to it, there's no should not. It's, again, spiritual guidance doesn't command and doesn't demand. Isn't that wonderful to know that there's a presence guiding you home to the presence that you are, and it doesn't command and it doesn't demand. Just like children who outgrow toys. They play with them for a while and then they leave them. But it's not about trying to say that the toy was right or wrong, or playing with the toy was right or wrong. It's simply opening up to be all that you truly are, to be aware of that. Thank you.
just wanted to share the miracle of me actually being here. I had no plans to be here, and I just kept getting these little random messages about strawberries.
Okay.
I was in the market, and she had all kinds of vegetables and fruits and stuff. It's like, hey, how about some sweet strawberries? They're really good today, And then I open up Facebook. It's like, how to clean a strawberry. This is how you do it. And I open up the refrigerator. Somebody had bought strawberries, and I wake up in the morning and all I'm hearing is strawberry. And now I know that this was going to be happening, but I never really looked into any of the specifics, because I knew, of course, that I wasn't going to go. I couldn't go. Of course, I have too many obligations, responsibilities. I'm just too important to leave my business and my family and everything else. And then of course the ego came up with 150 physical reasons why I couldn't drive out here myself. And then I manifested a bladder infection. So now you can't really go. And it was just I was watching this. I realized what was going on. And then I was sitting in the Target parking lot, and I had the number here, and I had to actually take one hand to press the button to call Salita, and my voice was kind of shaky, and I just wanted to say yes. I just told him I just want to say yes. It's like, oh, yes. I'm like, yes, I'm coming to Strawberry, and the last sign before that was I was at the grocery store and Tic Tacs, and it says Strawberry Fields. That was the last sign.
Oh my gosh! Even on the Tic Tacs.
Yeah,
she's passing it around, her symbol of evidence.
He totally made those Tic Tacs just for me, and
pass it around. I believe you. Al saying, "You want to see?"
Yeah. So it happened so fast, and then I actually thought, well, how am I going to get the money? And then this lady came into my business, and I did some services for her, and she handed me $500 cash. That was the day before. That was Tuesday, the day before I was leaving here. That I didn't know I was leaving, but it was. It just happened really fast, and then I thought Helena wasn't going to be here, and then she came here, and plus then Spirit said, well, David's been to your house, and Helena's been to your house, and Jackie's been to your house, and Jason's been to your place twice. It's time for you to go to their home. And so it's a miracle. So I have no expectations. I'm just like hugging and smiling, and then everybody's talking about the body stuff, and that's what my biggest I asked Spirit, I just want to drop this body identification. And then when I said that, it accelerated. It's super accelerated. And and then it seems like everybody's talking about that. So thank you. Thank you all for being here, really, for me.
Thank you, Carolyn. Thank you.
Go to commercials.
I noticed when the Tic Tacs went around, Chrissy actually opened it up and smelled them, and were they actually minty?
They were lovely.
They're lovely.
They smelled pink.
They're actual Tic Tacs in there.
Yeah.
Strawberry.
I feel nauseous, and all morning, and last night, expressing after the movie. Just today, I feel like I'm ripped open, and I'm leaving tomorrow. I just feel really open. And I don't know what anything is going to look like, and I don't know, I don't really know what else to say.
I remember that you had that dream recently where you were with like co-workers and in a job situation, and in the dream they said your position is no longer here. And that's just a beautiful symbol that through everything, dreams, through people you meet, through everything that's occurring, the guidance, the direction is coming through to you. You are open. You are a receiver of this. You are not alone in this journey. This morning I called a friend, Christiane, who you met, and I said, "Oh, Chrissy's leaving tomorrow," and she said, "Really? Why? Is there a reason?" I said, "No, it just was scheduled." But she said, "Oh, I had such a deep connection with Chrissy." These are all symbols of these deep connections, this home feeling. And the terror can arise, or the ripping open feeling is just a feeling like I'm on my own. That's how it can play out. But that's the beauty of having all these reflections and meeting the ones who have taken that journey and can say, "Ah, I had that too. I felt the fear or the terror or the ripping open or the being dislodged, being disoriented," all of those things. Your mind even calls forth those reflections as just as soft, gentle reminders like, yes, you are not alone, you are not alone. Mighty companions surround you, mighty companions go with you. And the experiences, I met you at, I guess it was up at the January retreat when you came, you and Andrew came. We could just feel that in our hearts, the sincerity, the devotion, the inside you that's saying, "Oh my gosh, this is it, this is calling me." And it's happening, that you can acknowledge that, you can acknowledge that, and you can be assured that there's going to be a continuity from that inner feeling. That's where the continuity is. It seems shattering when we look at it in terms of the timeline. All these things can come floating in about, where is this leading? Will I survive this? What will happen to me? You think of movies like The Wizard of Oz, when the Scarecrow is there with Dorothy and then the flying monkeys come and take all the straw out and sprinkle it all over the road. That can be a kind of a graphic symbol of how it feels. Because so much is loosening in your mind, so much is being loosened and let go, and that's what's occurring. And if you could just, take some deep breaths and go, yes, I ask for this deep in my heart. I ask for peace. I ask for harmony. I ask for a true, deep feeling of connectedness. And now I'm trusting that everything, what seems to be the means, will show up for me. And will keep showing up as long as they're needed, until there is no process anymore. So just you sharing that with all of us, it helps all of us be aware of this, and just to be joined, so connected with you and joined with you in our hearts and our prayers, and that's, that's everything. Ellen just came back, and she hadn't seen her husband for how many months?
6 months.
6 months. And it was an interesting joining that I'm sure came from that. But there's trust. There's trust in this journey, where you just hang with your heart. You hang with your heart. You stay with your heart, and you keep going with what's on your heart, and everything opens up. It opens up like the flower. And you have so much love and support with you. We are right there with you. I know even if you, on the way to the airport, if you stop off at the Metaphysical Center, Christiane Would love to see you too. Would love to see you again. And just stay connected, you know. Reach out, call, send an email, send a chat, you know. Those are symbols too. Like, oh yeah, my friends go with me. And we love you. We love you showing up in your pink pajamas and just coming and sitting in the front row and just like, I'm here. I guess right across the way here, Phil Donahue's going to do his thing.
I don't really know what to ask or what to expect, but could you offer me guidance?
Offer it. Feel the voice coming. It's Cody. What's that? Say it loud for everyone to hear.
Ask Jesus for help.
Ask Jesus for help. Yeah, I have to say over the years it's kind of like one thing I noticed about guidance and inner listening and hearing is it's the way I experience it. It's always for myself, in the sense that it never was something that I felt compelled in any way to, start working with people, talking to people and say, this is what I'm hearing, this is your guidance, this is your guidance. It was more of a sense of a direction in terms of clear steps and decisions and instructions I was receiving. And it came crystal clear. Go here, go there, call so-and-so, you forgot your keys, turn left, know your other left, like in the Matrix. Very humorous and very practical and everything. And actually that started to shift a little bit in the 1990s, because I was so happy that people started showing up and saying, I am your student. And then, even with that, I still didn't feel a sense of offering guidance. I didn't have any kind of compelling sense of offering guidance to people. And then at some point, with the students, they would say things like, they would come to me and say, I'm here with you, I'm living with you, I'm opening, I'm trusting, and if you see anything at all, please point it out. Or if there's anything that you're hearing specifically for me, please offer the guidance to me. And that was interesting for me, because that was an invitation. So usually that's the context of how things go. Even now here at the monastery, when I'm here and when there's a group of us living here, it's such a focus on prayer. We were just having a meeting this morning, a group of us over there in the main house, and that was really the emphasis, was so much on prayer, really kind of pointing to what Cody was just saying, where we're just joining, whether you call it Jesus or Holy Spirit or whatever spirit. It's like being so open and so receptive to what is given. And when you're genuinely open and attuned, then that comes. It comes through very naturally, very easily, in a very unified way. There's not the sense of my guidance and your guidance. That's another ploy. If there's one spirit, why should there be different guidances? It can come through the filter in different ways. So at this moment, I don't have anything.
Can I say something?
Yes.
My the direction I've had, like, for the past day has just been to, no matter what's appearing, to notice the awareness that is here, no matter how vague it may look, even if things are feeling insane and crazy. Just to notice that there's still that cognizance that's, even though it seems like it's covered up, it's still, the feeling of it might be gone, and the all the great knowledge about it might be gone, like, oh, this is reality, this is great, but it's still there. And so it's just noticing that, and everything starts to kind of flow.
Yeah, it's beautiful. That to me sounds like a guidance. You know, it can be that specific. Focus on awareness. Focus on awareness, and because of all the other seeming options, there it's bringing you into a single focus as a practice, even as a temporary or an interim practice, and that's how it goes. And it's part of this flow, and then that brings you back more and more into just the experience of awareness, not of any object of awareness. And very much like in Vipassana, when they just notice the sensation, notice whatever arises, but stay in awareness. Yeah. It's beautiful.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming here. Thank you.
We were talking about imagination earlier. Is this a helpful use of imagination to try, like looking in the distance, and then I imagine that it becomes flat, and then rendering in that floating whiteness that we're talking about when I first got here, trying to recapture the feeling that I was having then, just try to reminisce, and is that a good use of it? Try to imagine that.
I'd say I find it very relaxing. I think I come back to allowance, so for me it's never got the kind of the quality or the feel of trying to recapture anything, because that kind of has a time sense. Like, this is how it was, like a very powerful experience, and then the mind oftentimes wants to recapture, recreate, remanifest, or whatever, but just this more sense of openness and allowance, because that's what brings everything, full into awareness, is this allowance. So to me that's the way I feel it. Just staying really open as you can, and just really in full allowance.
So don't try to force the experience back.
Yeah, don't try to force it. Yeah, because then it still puts a little pressure on, like you've kind of got an outcome in mind, and it shuts it down.
Thanks.
Yeah, I just got a question about when you're giving guidance, or especially living in community, and it's direct guidance, and you're saying, Spirit doesn't command or anything, and I take it as a harshness coming through. So there's a thought of vigilance, because if you just like, I'll just half-ass it or whatever, there's this vigilance thing going, and it feels almost like military style, like just this coming through, and I'm receiving it as very harsh in my mind. And you were mentioning earlier about, and I keep bringing it back, where's your mind at, and it just felt like very exhausting experience. And you're saying surrender the control or the adjuster, and I was wondering if you'd be able to elaborate on that a little bit.
Yeah, when I think of the Spirit and guidance never commands and never demands, first of all, I just open up to that quality of non-coercion, and this is really the Holy Spirit's job, or this stream's job, is it can't possibly coerce the sleeping mind without generating a sense of resistance. So even when there's instructions given that could be extremely helpful, the mind can choose to try to resist the instructions, but still it is helpful for me to start to pay attention to whatever the interpretations and the reactions are, like the harshness. Harshness is kind of a feeling, an emotion, and there's definitely an interpretation behind that emotion. So it's quite a letting go. I've gone into different kind of what seem to be spiritual communities and traveled around and so on and so forth, and I just wanted to be tuned into this inner guidance so much that whenever I would notice a sense of harshness or feeling shut down or feeling controlled or anything, I would come back, to the core teachings. I would just pause for a minute, pray, open up. Sometimes, I would have that passage come in, I am responsible for what I see. I choose the feelings I experience, and I decide upon the goal I would achieve. And everything that seems to happen to me, I ask for and receive as I have asked. That last part really helped me. Everything that seems to happen to me, I ask for and receive as I have asked. Because the egoic filter is a filter of a me and a you, of leaders and followers. And when that harshness comes up, that interpretation is not coming from anything that has been spoken or any words, any facial expressions, any kind of tones of voices, anything like that. That harshness is not coming from that. It's just coming from an interpretation that there's something outside of me telling me to do something. That's what, if I could give you a name to that filter, something outside of me that's telling me to do something that I don't want to do. And that, as close as I can say it, that interpretation is a reflection of the authority problem. The belief in authorities in the world, either the body that is believed to be the self or other bodies, in being in some kind of authoritarian or authoritative position, to be an author, to be in a position of power, in a position of control. So even when that harshness comes up, it's a glorious opportunity to go inward, to sink deep within into the true guidance, the guidance that's coming from you. And when you can sink into that peaceful place, the inner and the outer dissolve. And that's the miracle. There's no sense of an external world or an external authority. And yet we get lots of opportunities. Seems like countless opportunities. And certainly whether you're working at a job, a paid job, or you seem to have a spiritual community that you're involved with, clearly that's the opportunity for a shift in mind, of really starting to realize that God is the author of reality, and that there are no other authors. Even when, I just have had fun doing all these talks, and then Lisa Cairns and I were talking because she does the same thing. Neither of us have set out to write a book. Certainly, when I read the Course, I thought, well, that's the last book I'll ever need, and I have no intention of writing books or doing anything like that. It just was, I was so swelled up with gratitude and tears of love and devotion that I just said, well, that makes it simple. And then we do talks, and then the talks get recorded, and then the talks get transcribed, and then books come out, and so on and so forth. But still, when I'm off and going to a bookstore or someplace, it's this new phenomenon for me, book signings. I've always thought that's the funniest thing, because I don't believe in authors. I really don't. I don't believe in authors at all, and I don't see myself in that way at all. So there's something inside that's always like, ha ha ha, isn't this fun? Because I'm with a bunch of people, and then there's these books, and then there's these pens, and I'm like, ha ha ha. Because it's just tickles my heart, because it's like, I don't know what any of this is about. But it's fun. So I'll go with it. And yet I don't see myself as an author, I don't see myself as a teacher, I don't see myself, in these kind of concepts. And that's because I haven't experienced that God is the author. I would happily be a creation, a spirit creation of a divine author, than I would try to be an author. It just, I've seen that there's great difficulties with identifying with being an author, and it wouldn't really matter. That has just shifted my experience of the world into a place of gratitude, and not into a place of authority, trying to establish. It's interesting that sometimes words can be spoken in kind of an authoritative way. I will use the distinction between authoritative and authoritarian. This is an important distinction, and a distinction that Jesus made actually with Helen Schuckman. Authoritarian is as if there is one higher commanding one lower. And remember what I just said about guidance. Guidance never commands and never demands. Now, if you had a presence, authoritative means certain. So Jesus Christ is an example of certainty. There was no misgivings, there was no doubt in that presence. So even when Jesus was scribing A Course in Miracles, Helen Schuckman, who perceived herself as a research psychologist at Columbia Presbyterian, Medical Center, she occasionally would feel that there was this very authoritative presence or voice coming through, and it had instructions for her. But they were more like suggestions, I would say. Like even at the very beginning, the first words that she heard from Jesus were, "This is a Course in Miracles. Please take notes." You hear that? Please take notes. Because she had already joined with her boss, William Thetford, and Bill had said, it's such a crazy way we live, and there's so much stress in our psychology department and this and that, there has to be a better way. And she said, yes, there has to be, and I'll help you find it. So it was like seemingly two people joining into a prayer for a better way, and then dreams and colored dreams go by, and visions, and eventually this little train of thought, this is A Course in Miracles, please take notes. The answer, isn't that beautiful, how gentle? It's given as an instruction, but it has please. Jesus uses please in his first instruction. Wouldn't you like to live with a being that never told you what you had to do, but simply put it into a request? Please rake the leaves. Please do the dishes. With that kind of feeling, not necessarily just that word, but that quality. That's the guidance of the Spirit. It does not command, it does not demand, it does not want you to feel a sense of coercion, because it knows you'll lock down, you'll shut down. You're not going to listen to any more instructions if there's a feeling of coercion. And that's why the Spirit is persistent. A lot of times it would say to Helen, what I said was, what you wrote was. So it took 7 years with that much patience. Please take notes, and then what I said was, what I wrote was. You see, infinite patience. There's even a line in the Course which people think is a mind bender, but it's infinite patience yields immediate results. Wow. That is not of this planet. Infinite patience yields immediate results. And yet, what it's really saying is when you're in the moment, you aren't waiting for anything. It's not even a time concept. It's just you're present. You're present with love. So I would say that relationships and spiritual community, and maybe a combination of the two, is seemingly a fast track, although there are many, many forms that seem to be part of the awakening. But because it just flushes up the authority problem, in a major way, and for many it's a little too fast. Some people will say, no, I don't want to sign up for that. Did I sign anything? I hope not. Because it's too fast. Actually, the mind just judges it as too fast, and yet presence itself, there is no fast or slow. It's just really tuning into that soft stream again. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Greg.
I don't necessarily trust that the person that's giving me the instruction is really receiving guidance from Spirit. If I trust that, I'm there. But there have been so many examples of people that are, in their history, are the A-types or whatever. They're the kind that have to be boss. I mean, that's their role. That's the only way they're going to perform. And then when they come into the spiritual realm, whatever, and they want to lead a community, as an example, they're telling me what to do. And I honestly don't know. I don't trust that that's guidance that I'm receiving. And I have difficulty with that. Because I'm up for the guidance. And I don't always know I'm getting it, but I'm giving it a go. So that's my issue.
Well, I really feel like in my own experience too that I stayed open with the Course workbook lessons, and one of the lessons in the Course was I trust my brothers who are one with me. And yet I think honestly when I first opened to that lesson that I hit a lot of the same things that you're talking about just come right up. Like, how far do you go with these brothers? I was really raised with kind of a feeling too of to open to be discerning, very discerning about don't just take everything everyone tells you to be the truth. Don't just accept things necessarily on face value. Investigate within. Explore within. Well, the truth is not found in a book. The truth is not found in people. The truth is not found in words. So before I'm going to follow a person, I really have to go inside and you might say feel the trust. Come back to that stream that I'm talking about, regardless of who it is, where it is, what the rules, so-called rules are, or whatever. I have to really, really feel in my heart that trust before I'm going to make a move. And so that was a starting point. And then I started to pay closer and closer attention to my feelings as a barometer. I could feel when I was kind of closed and shut down, and when I was way open, when I was really open and in the flow. And so instead of starting to direct my trust, that do I trust this one or that one, or who do I trust, I started to pay much closer attention to my feelings on a moment-to-moment basis. Because it's like, when I read in A Course in Miracles that Jesus Christ says, the one right use of judgment. I mean, he starts a sentence out like that, you got my attention. From a guy who teaches judge not, but he starts off the sentence, the one right use of judgment is how do you feel? Not that there'll be all these feelings in the kingdom of heaven, but practically speaking, as we're going through this awakening, how do you feel? Use that. And I would say that was like, be intuitive. Be as intuitive as you can be, and ultimately try to be 100% intuitive. The answers all come from within. You don't find it in the words, you don't find it in the sights and symbols and the people. So that, I could totally go with that right away. It's like, why would you follow anybody, actually, unless you felt almost, I would say, a calling or a deep trust or resonance. And I feel that's a presence. I don't think that when I read the Bible and I read the Gospels and I see Jesus walking around and mostly going up to fishermen and saying, "Follow me," there had to be an enormous presence behind those words. Because who would leave their family or their boat or their nets and just walk off to follow some guy with long hair? This is back in the days where they would crucify people and hang people, sometimes crucify them upside down, or whatever. This is in a world where, where is the trust? There had to be some kind of presence. There has to be an integrity. There has to be a consistency. Why would you follow a person unless you truly felt in your heart that this was your calling, to lay aside, part of laying aside your grievances and your judgments, and opening to start to realize that the guidance can come from within, seemingly, or it can be reflected in characters. It takes a lot of trust to start to pay attention to the signs. Like Carolyn was sharing, she had a lot of signs to come here, and she hadn't given it any conscious thought about coming here. And then the strawberry signs just started adding up, and it's like, okay, I could take a hint, I could take a clue. And then even on the way with the Tic Tacs, it was almost telegraphed, like that's beautiful. That's a beautiful little parable of just being wide open and flowing with the symbols. And in terms of spiritual communities, I seem to live in a number of communities, so that those very same issues came up for me when I was living in communities. Those were the same things that got flushed up into my awareness. And even if I roll it back to grad school, I remember I was in a therapy class for psychology, for a school psychology program, and we had to be psychoanalyzed, or we had to have somebody do psychotherapy on us, and they recorded the session. And back then, what came through me came through with a lot of clarity and certainty, I thought, but the professor judged that I had an authority issue, listening to my psychotherapy tape. I don't know what was coming through my mouth back then, but it was like, David will not listen to external authorities. That's the diagnosis that I got.
High praise indeed.
High praise indeed. At the time, I was like, well, okay, that's what you say. But I do feel it's about integrity. I do feel it's about honesty. It's about consistency. Trust has all kinds of characteristics that come from it. And in the Course in Miracles, there's another 9 characteristics that come after trust. And it's really, I think, a very much an internal matter. And then at some point, when we feel like we're everything, we have emerged with everything, then that's what the most trusting feeling is feeling at peace with who you are. And the doubt was always self-doubt, just doubting, who am I? That was it.
It's 12:20.
Okay. It is time.
Thank you, David.
Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you.